These are the 10 greatest inventors of all time. Of course, this list is subjective, but I'm basing the rankings on the overall impact of their work. Number 10, Leonardo da Vinci. Not only was Leonardo da Vinci the man who painted the Mona Lisa and The Last Supper, one of the greatest artists ever to live, he also was one of the most talented men in history, with a scope and depth of interests that were unprecedented. His genius is why we call people of great skill in many areas Renaissance men. Leonardo's innovation in the art of painting and drawing alone are incredible, and include the way he laid on the paint, how he painted light, botany, geology, human emotion, and the anatomy. And after his death, Da Vinci has become revered for his technological ingenuity, having conceptualized detailed designs for things that wouldn't be realized for hundreds of years after his death, like flying machines, an armored vehicle, concentrated solar power, and a double-hulled ship that was much less likely to sink. If Da Vinci's anatomical drawings would have been published, they would have made a major contribution to the field of medical research. He was also employed for a time as an engineer where he showed considerable talent. Within Leonardo's own lifetime, his fame was so great that legend has it the King of France, who befriended Leonardo in the twilight years of his life, held Da Vinci in his arms as the genius died. Number 9, Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin was the greatest thinker across a wide range of subjects in American history. He was a printer, a leading author, postmaster, political theorist, politician, statesman, diplomat, and, of course, a scientist and inventor. His contributions ranged from small things like an idea for a sea anchor, a more efficient fireplace called the Franklin stove, and a design for new paper money that was more difficult to counterfeit, to his famous investigation of electricity and lightning and the discovery of positive and negative electrons, which led to his invention of the lightning rod. Franklin was also a natural leader of men, creating the first organized firefighting department in America, founded America's first hospital, created the US postal system, was part of a 3-man team that founded America's college system, and perhaps most importantly was an influential founding father who played a pivotal role in inventing the American political system. Franklin is the only founder whose signature appears on all 4 major documents of the founding of the country: the Declaration of Independence, the Treaty of Alliance with France, the Treaty of Paris, and the United States Constitution. Number 8, Archimedes of Syracuse. Archimedes is considered the greatest mathematician of his time and one of the greatest inventors ever. The fact that he lived almost 2,000 years before nearly all the other men on this list is a testament to his genius. He proved a range of geometric theorems we still rely on today, like the area of a circle, the surface area and volume of a sphere, and the area under a parabola. He also derived an accurate approximation of pi, and created a system using exponentiation for expressing very large numbers. These mathematical innovations weren't widely recognized during his lifetime, but the things he created based on his calculations were. Archimedes was the first to describe the principles of the lever, and was an epic designer of early machines like the screw pump, compound pulleys, the first planetarium, and defensive weapons to protect his native city, Syracuse, during war. The need for these last innovations was unfortunately all too great, considering he was killed during the siege of Syracuse by a Roman soldier, even though enemy commanders had ordered that he not be harmed. Galileo praised Archimedes many times and referred to him as superhuman. Number 7, Johannes Gutenberg. Johannes Gutenberg introduced the printing press to Europe around 1450. The world's first movable type system was first invented in China. The technology spread to Korea, and they modified it to use metal, but it was Gutenberg who perfected the system's efficiency by creating mass-produced movable type out of metal to print the much simpler European alphabet onto the page using oil-based ink. This printing press suddenly made it economical to create books and pamphlets, and was the single most important invention that sparked the era of mass communication. Many have named it the most important invention of the entire millennium from 1 to 2000 AD. For the first time in history, information circulated unrestricted. This broke the elite's monopolistic grip on education and learning because now anyone could learn how to read and write. Number 6, Charles Babbage. The Englishman Charles Babbage is considered a father of the computer for first coming up with the concept of a programmable computational machine that, while mechanical and unwieldy, had the basic architecture of a modern computer, an idea born out of his work on increasing the productivity of labor. His book, on the economy of machinery and manufacturers was influential and included what's now known as the Babbage Principle, which pointed out the advantages of those businesses that adopted a method for dividing labor by assigning only high-skilled tasks to high-cost workers. His data-driven mind also led him into the field of metrology, which is the scientific study of measurement, for which Babbage is also considered a pioneer. He also invented that metal frame that's attached to the front of locomotives that clears the tracks of obstacles, constructed the first dynamometer car used for measuring a train's performance, invented the first ophthalmoscope, allowing a doctor to see inside the eye, and achieved significant results in cryptography, although his achievements in code breaking weren't known until over a century after his death, as they were kept secret by the English military. Number 5, Galileo Galilei. Galileo was the father of modern science, according to Einstein. His major achievement was improving the telescope and using it to make observations about the planets and the stars, including supporting Copernicus's revolutionary idea that the Earth revolved around the sun. He also created an early version of the thermometer, invented an improved military compass, and did experimental physics work on the motions of bodies that was a precursor to the classical mechanics developed by Isaac Newton. Galileo's other notable astronomical contributions were the discovery of Venus's 4 moons, sunspots, and the discovery that the Milky Way was in fact a multitude of stars packed so densely that they appeared to be clouds when viewed with the naked eye. His writings in defense of the heliocentric view of the solar system brought him in direct conflict with the powerful Roman Catholic Church, who accused him of heresy and sentenced him to house arrest, where he remained for the rest of his life. While there, he completed his final and perhaps finest work, Two New Sciences, summarizing much of his career in physics over the preceding 30 years. Number 4. Orville and Wilbur, the Wright brothers. The Wright brothers invented, built, and flew the world's first successful manned airplane in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina on December 17, 1903, one of the most consequential days in human history. When Wilbur and Orville were boys, their father brought them home a toy helicopter, sparking their interest in flying. They played with it until it broke and then, of course, just built their own. Neither boy finished high school, but they were smart, hard-working, and made a great team, and in 1890 launched their own newspaper, called the West Side News. The project was short-lived, but it cemented their bond, and before long, they had capitalized on the bicycle craze that was sweeping the nation by starting their own shop and manufacturing their own bike design, a successful endeavor that would become known as the Wright Cycling Company. They used the proceeds to fund their growing interest in flight. There were 2 key innovations that led to the fateful day on that Carolina beach. One was the brothers' work with their shop mechanic, Charlie Taylor, to custom build a lightweight engine out of aluminum. The second was their innovation of 3-axis control, enabling the pilot to effectively steer the aircraft and maintain its equilibrium. They'd go on to further develop their invention into many different models, and created the Wright Company, which also trained 115 more pilots to fly Wright Company planes in demonstrations to the public, sharing the wonder of flight with many of their very curious countrymen. Number 3. James Watt. James Watt may have been the single most responsible person in bringing about the Industrial Revolution. He made the steam engine dramatically more efficient by introducing a separate condenser that avoided wasting energy, which radically improved the machine's power output and transformed it into the workhorse of factory production. In 1781, after much financial hardship and struggle, Watt patented a steam engine that produced continuous rotative motion. In a flash, new classes of industry were economically viable, setting off a rapid period of immense economic and social change across the world. Watt also developed the concept of horsepower and invented the document copier, patenting the device in 1780. The principle on which that machine is based remained in use until the arrival of modern photocopiers nearly 200 years later, and the Watt unit of power is also named after him. Number 2. Tim Berners-Lee. The only man born after 1900 on this list is Tim Berners-Lee, the English computer scientist who invented the World Wide Web. In March 1989, he made a proposal for an information management system, and 8 months later proceeded to implement the first successful communication between a hypertext transfer protocol client and a server via the internet. For his new system, Berners-Lee built the first web browser, web server, and the first website, which provided an explanation of what the World Wide Web was. 3 years later, he founded and continues to lead the World Wide Web Consortium, whose stated purpose is to develop protocols and guidelines that ensure long-term growth for the web. Berners-Lee, still just 59 years young, is currently working on the semantic web, which aims to convert the current web, dominated by unstructured and semi-structured documents, into a web of data that can be processed by machines as outlined by Berners-Lee himself. Quote, "I have a dream for the web in which computers become capable of analyzing all the data on the web, the content, links, and transactions between people and computers. A semantic web, which makes this possible, has yet to emerge, but when it does, the day-to-day mechanisms of trade, bureaucracy, and our daily lives will be handled by machines talking to machines. The intelligent agents people have touted for ages will finally materialize." Thomas Edison is the world's greatest inventor, not just for what he invented, but because he had the good sense to apply the principles of mass production and teamwork to innovation. Edison has nearly 1,100 US patents in his name for inventions that had significant impact on the world, like electric light, sound recording, motion pictures, a long-lasting practical electric light bulb, a mechanical vote recorder, and a battery for an electric car. His development of a system of electric power generation and distribution to homes, businesses, and factories was a crucial development in the modernization of the world. After the sale of his quadruplex telegraph, Edison created the world's first industrial research laboratory, with the specific purpose of producing constant technological innovation and improvement, and then controlling its application. It's true that Edison was legally attributed with most of the inventions that many of his employees created through painstaking research and development under his direction, but it took a special kind of genius to seize great opportunity after great opportunity, balance all those projects, and lead and inspire all those people. Thanks for watching. I hope this video inspires you to go create something great. I'll leave you with this quote from Benjamin Franklin. "As we enjoy great advantages from the inventions of others, we should be glad of an opportunity to serve others by any invention of ours, and this we should do freely and generously."